Hey everyone, this is Alex from ninjateacher.com, and in this video I'm going to break down the requirements for teaching English in Vietnam and tell you exactly what you need to know. So what I'm going to cover in this video is whether you need a degree or not, whether you need to be a native English speaker, if you have to be in the country or not to get a job, as well as what documents you need, if you need the certified criminal background check and all of that. So there's a couple of different scenarios that I'm going to cover based on those different factors. So watch through to the end of the video to make sure you know exactly where you stand and if you can come over and teach English in Vietnam. So I came over to Vietnam about a year ago. I've been living in Hanoi as well as Ho Chi Minh, and I'm working on my business here, which helps people like you get started teaching English abroad, specifically in South Korea and now in Vietnam, Thailand, China too. And what I would like to say just to start off is that the qualifications can vary. What you actually need can vary to a certain degree. So I urge you to send over your resume on my website just to get a full opinion on this. Use this as a guideline and then get some professional advice about whether you should get started teaching here and if you're qualified to, and what the best route to get started teaching is. So bearing that in mind, what do you need to know about the actual qualifications, and when you come over here to get started teaching, what you need to have with you? Okay, so let's start off with the best case scenario, and that is if you are a native English speaker, you have a bachelor's degree, and you come over here with the required documents, which are typically a TEFL certification, as well as a certified copy of your degree, as well as a certified copy of a criminal background check. Now, if you cover all those bases, there's a high likelihood of getting a great job here. And if you're working with the top schools, if you want to get a job at one of the top schools, a lot of the times they ask for these requirements. So if you want to do that and get a work permit sponsored to you, it is good to have all those qualifications. Now, I urge you to bring the originals of your degree over, your bachelor's degree. It can be in any discipline. Make sure you have that with you. Make sure you have your original TEFL certificates, and I'll go into what kind of TEFL you might want to get in a little bit later in the video. But if you bring all those documents with you over to Vietnam, that's an ideal scenario to be in, and it will be relatively easy to find a job here because the market is very good. So what happens if you don't have a bachelor's degree? Well, there are a lot of people teaching here without a bachelor's degree, so this isn't completely a requirement. If you do want to come over and give it a shot, it is possible to get a job without a bachelor's degree. And this just means that you will have to stay on 3-month visas, which is very common. I would say about 80% of people here are on these 3-month visas anyway. So then it's just a matter of going around to schools. You might not be able to get a job teaching with one of the top schools that require all those documents. For example, I'm working with one of the big chains here, and they are pretty strict about having a degree and having all the documents. So you might just have to go to schools that are okay with not having that, but there are plenty of these schools out there. So it is not the end of the world, and you can absolutely do it without a degree. There are many people doing it at the moment. So what happens if you aren't a native English speaker? Well, again, it's going to be a little bit harder. This time, you know, the main requirement that a lot of schools want is a native speaker. So you're kind of fighting against the standards here. However, it is possible. There are quite a lot of Filipinos working here, as well as some people from the Ukraine and Russia. And especially if you have a teaching degree or an education degree, it is very possible to get a job here. The pay might be slightly lower, but not astronomically so. So again, it is possible, and you just have to go around, maybe search a little bit harder, and you know, it might be more tough. Again, I just urge you to speak to someone who's qualified to actually give you good feedback. You can send your resume over to us, and we'll give you feedback on that. So what about TEFL certifications? Well, I would say it is very important to have one of these. I think the days of just coming over if you're a native English speaker and getting a job are over. You have to have a TEFL certification for almost any job. I've not heard of like hardly anyone getting a job without one. Especially if you are getting a job at one of the biggest schools that offer you a long-term contract and lots of benefits, then you do want to have one of these. So which one should you get? Well, the CELTA, of course, is the world's best certification. Then there's in-class TEFLs, which are great because you get teaching experience. And then there's online ones, which, you know, some schools will be okay with. You don't actually get any teaching experience while you're doing this. So, you know, if you do one of these, it's going to boost your resume, but schools won't know that you have actually got any teaching experience. So the more teaching experience you get in a TEFL, the more likely a school is to hire you. It's as simple as that. Same goes with teaching experience. If you are one of those people that have some teaching experience, that goes a long way. If you don't, it's still possible. But then it's a good thing to get one of these in-class TEFL courses, do a TEFL program like our one here in Vietnam, where you actually get that teaching experience. And then schools see that and they really like to hire people with one of these. And if you do want to get the working permits, it is a requirement from the government, so you will need one of these TEFL courses. Right now in Vietnam, I do need to mention that you have to be in the country to get jobs. Now, this is unfortunate because there's such a good market here, there's such a high demand for teachers, but usually schools aren't willing to hire someone from outside the country. So bring your documents, bring all your qualifications, come over to Vietnam, and then I can personally set you up with an interview if you fit into that first category of people with all your documents. And you know, then you can just search around and find a job. Unfortunately, you can't get a job from outside the country. Very few schools will allow you to do this or will be willing to do this. And if they do, also be wary about that, because are they actually offering you anything, or are they just saying like, come over and maybe you'll get a job? Okay, so that pretty much covers it. It is the best case scenario if you're a native English speaker, have a bachelor's degree, have a TEFL certification. The more teaching experience from the TEFL certification, the better. If you are a non-native speaker, that is possible. It is possible to get a job. You might have a slight pay decrease. If you don't have a degree, it is still possible. Might be a little bit harder. You have to search around a little bit more. Otherwise, yeah, you have to come over, hit us up if you want a job teaching here. We can help you find a great job, especially if you bring all those documents. There's just such a high demand for teachers right now. If you have your criminal background check, as well as your original degree and a certified copy of your degree, and you're a native English speaker, we can set you up with great schools. You can come over, do an interview, and get a great job teaching here. So that's it from me, Alex from ninjateacher.com. Head over to ninjateacher.com to get started and subscribe for more videos about living and teaching English abroad. Speak to you soon. Peace.